So Erika, you've been doing the Open Photo Project for a while now, and I know you've interviewed, you said 50 people about couples or pairs or single people as well. But what has come up? Like you said that we were talking offline, and you were talking about how some of the aha moments when people would hear themselves interviewed or hear each other interviewed. I'd love to hear about that. Would you be willing to share?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the people that I interviewed, I think this is very common for a lot of folks, but she was very self-conscious about hearing her voice afterwards. And she said she was a little nervous to listen to the audio of our interview. But then she emailed me a little while later, and it was so sweet because she said, at listening to the things that I said, I developed a little crush on myself. Aww. And how lovely to have a crush on oneself.
We could all use that.
Yeah, because she thought that, I guess she liked hearing the way she described her partners and her relationships, and just something about it felt good. So I was very pleased about that.
That's wonderful. So what about people that I remember the Family Feud where the couples would start fighting, or the newlyweds where they'd no, you should know this about me. Did you have things like that come up where the couple, if you were interviewing people that were in open relationships together, they were like, what? Or,
Yeah, well, one of them was really sweet because it was two people who they didn't live together, or yet, they do now, but at the time of the interview they didn't live together. And one of the questions I always ask is, what type of language do you use around your relationship? So what kind of words do you use to describe your partners or your relationships? And this couple sort of got a little bit bashful while they were talking about it, because they were at a stage in their relationship where they had said I love you to each other maybe once, or they had just sort of started talking about that. And so they sort of shared that with me, and they're like, well, I just recently told her that I loved her, and so we're sort of, and then they were giggling and a little bit shy because that early stage of the relationship. And so it was kind of sweet that came out in our conversation.
Yeah.
And then additionally, some things have come out, where I might ask someone other things about their relationship, or primary partners, for example, that term primary partners. One time, two people kind of got into a little bit of a debate about if they were primary partners or not.
In the middle of the interview.
Because they agreed on the context of the situation and how they engage and how the role plays in life, but that word primary partners, one of them was like, no, we're not primary partners. I mean, this that we don't have to label it that. And the other one was like, well, when we're talking about moving in together, and I would probably let you tell me if you didn't want me to see somebody else, if that made you uncomfortable. That kind of makes me think of you as my primary partner. And then they were like, oh, we're going to have to continue this conversation off of it,
Yeah. I love that you can see behind the curtain, so to speak, and see what's really going on, because I think it's really easy to look at other people and think they've got it all together. They've got it all figured out. They know exactly where what their partnership is called and what their relationship agreements are, and we're all evolving all the time. There's always we're growing and changing, and so
yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of times people in non-monogamous relationships talk about change a lot, because when you might start seeing a new person, that changes. I mean, not necessarily in the way that it is maybe feared in a lot of cases, but it changes dynamics, it changes logistics, it changes agreements, perhaps on things like safer sex, or sleep overnight, or time, or things shift around. And so being able to talk about that change can be awkward and uncomfortable, and it can bring people closer together, and it comes up.
Yeah, no, and getting to see that role modeled is really powerful. And a lot of people don't want to share that because it is vulnerable. So I love that you were able to find people that were willing to share that, so that it normalizes it for people, and we all get role models. It's okay not to know. It's okay to ask our partners, because if we feel like it's supposed to be figured out, we may not bring up to our partner, hey, I don't know really what we're calling ourselves. Or where do you see us going? Or can we have the safer sex conversation? And I think that's always, we need to constantly kind of check in with each other to keep it really healthy and vital.
Totally. I think one of the things that might commonly happen is not necessarily non-monogamy, but I would say just in our culture, is people being nervous to bring up certain check-ins and certain conversations. And it's almost the expectation that things just go with the flow and
Yeah.
you should be on the same page or something. But that's, check-ins and just what one person thinks of as a boyfriend or a girlfriend is totally different than what another person thinks of as that. And
Yeah.
just thinking about what does this mean, and admitting that you don't know or admitting that you have a desire or a hope around something, it's a really valuable thing to be able to check in about people with.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for bringing that together. If you haven't checked out the Open Photo Project, I encourage you to go check that out. Erika Capon, thank you so much for being here. Did I say it right again?
Yeah.
So, no, I practiced enough times wrong that I keep messing up your last name.
And just I think you said it, but if you want to go to the Open Photo Project, it's theopenphotoproject.com, and you'll see tons of photos and interviews and audio and things like that.
Yeah. So, and I'm Cathy virtually from the Intimacy Dojo. Thanks so much for joining us. Leave comments below. Let us know what you think of the project and what you think of people sharing their processing.